Hare Gange Mahadev Sri Shankara Parvati Pati Mahadev Sri Shankara.
Namaste, it's Sahara Rose, and welcome back to the Highest Self podcast, a place where we discuss what makes you your soul's highest development. Welcome. How is everyone feeling? We are in a new month today. As I am recording this, it is Beltane, aka May Day, the first day of May, which is an ancient pagan holiday from the Celtic tradition, celebrating really the peak of the spring. We are at the midway point between spring and summer, and even though energetically for a lot of us right now, it still feels like we are in our winter because we are in quarantine. But it is important to remember that Earth goes on. And even though we may be at home, the flowers are still blossoming and the sun is still shining, and it is spring. We fully are in spring, and summer is around the corner, and it is a time to shift our energy. This month in Rose Gold Goddesses, the goddess that we are working with is Bridget. So Bridget is a Celtic goddess that I channeled, because this is an incredible time of year in the Celtic tradition, but she traditionally represented Imbolc, and Imbolc was the period that we would transition into spring, so typically around February. But the reason why I feel like we are really connecting to her energy right now is because we are in our spring. We kind of missed that opportunity because when it was the beginning of spring, like in February and March, that is when this quarantine situation really began. So we didn't get to, go out and spend time in nature and do all of the things that we otherwise may have done at this time. We were sort of taken into a prolonged winter that we still sort of are in. But this is the time right now, because we've been in quarantine for, 2 months now. It's important for us to remember what makes us feel alive, what makes us feel in our joy. Remember that life goes on. The first month, there was definitely so much fear happening around the coronavirus because it was unknown, because it was new, because our minds were going a million different places, which I have spoken about in other episodes. And a lot of us went to, worst case scenarios. I know I certainly did. I think it's normal for the human mind to do that. And then from going to that worst case scenario, we've been able to find our feet and find our grounding again and think about what really matters to us. And it has been much longer than any of us have ever thought. And we don't know when it's going to end. As of today, there's no date, and every state is treating it very differently. So there still is a massive element of not knowing about the virus and not knowing what's going to happen, but we as a whole have become energetically more comfortable with that. And with that comfort comes, how do I want to reemerge? Who do I want to be out of this quarantine? I speak about this in this month's Rose Gold Goddesses Circle. If you want to join us, head over to rosegoldgoddesses.com. Every single month, we're working with a new goddess energy. But Bridget, to me, is that reemergence of who do I want to be after quarantine? Who do I want to show up as? I think of it as summer vacation. When we were kids, we would go off in summer vacation, be at home, go to camp, do whatever, and come back in fall with the new year and essentially be different people, have different identities, different style, different everything. And this is really our time to think about who do we want to be when we come back into the world, and doing the work right now that will help us become that person. So for me, I know that it has been my shadow aspect can be overworking. So I am someone who could literally work all the time because I so deeply love what I do. So I literally have been writing a book, some type of book, since I was 23 years old. So the past 7 years, I've been writing a book because the moment I finish one, I go to the next, And really diving into that for myself has been what am I escaping from? That I'm constantly working. And yes, there's this big fueling of dharma and this big fueling of purpose. But for me, what I realized is I was escaping from joy. I was escaping from just being playful and having fun because I felt like that wasn't enough. And really what I felt like was I would not be enough if I was not producing content and helping other people and being there for everyone else that I would not be worthy. So that has been a massive thing that I have been looking into this quarantine as I turned in my next book at the beginning of the quarantine, Discover Your Dharma, and immediately going into, okay, what's the next book going to be about? Okay, let me write the proposal. Let me do this. And I'm like, no, let me live it. Let me live what I speak about, which is to embody our joy and to embody our inner child energy. So that is what I have been doing right now more than ever. I have actually been feeling more playful than I ever do in my normal life because I'm finally giving my playful side the opportunity. And I'll definitely talk about this in my next solo cast. But the woman who is on this interview is someone who has been extremely influential in that journey for me of tapping more into my playful side, my dancing side, my expressive side. And this is Malaika Darville. So you may have heard her on our other High Self podcast episodes. She has been on for 3 interviews, but the interviews have been so long that this is like the 7th or 8th episode that she has been on because they've been double episodes. So she is a hit here on the High Self podcast. And she was my teacher when I was 23 years old. At that point of my life, I was at a really big crossroads that I didn't know which way to turn. I had been following the trajectory of my life of going to school and going to college. And then it was time to get a job. And what I had, trained in to be an international human rights lawyer was not what I wanted to do. And I was at this really difficult place of not knowing if I could make it as an author, if I could ever live my own life, if I had to sacrifice everything because my parents sacrificed for me. And she was a hugely influential person for me because I attended her African dance class while being in Bali. And that class, to me, I was like, this feels like home. Like, this is what I want. Just feeling that sense of embodiment and community and joy and the drums. And she was just such an incredible example of what the divine feminine looks like. Just like so full of life and full of Shakti. And she was a grandmother even at that time. And now she has 2 grandkids. She's an older woman, by no means elderly. She's a young, sexy grandma. But to see someone who was older than my own parents, who was living in this state of joy and bliss and divine feminine, it was so incredibly eye-opening for me to see. So I knew I needed to train from her. And she had this 5 elements Shamanic Dance Activation training, which I did not have the money for. And I was like, I really want to learn from you. I know I need to learn from you, but I don't know how to do it. So I paid whatever I could. And I was like her little apprentice. I was just going around, putting up postcards, flyers, telling people, just trying to promote her training so I could go on it for a discounted price. So that is where I was at in my life right now, just so desperate for knowledge and support and really not knowing where to go. And because of that training, I released so much of the ancestral pain and trauma and limiting beliefs that I was holding on to. And I came out of that training fully in alignment, knowing that there was no way that I was going to not live my Dharma in this lifetime. There was no way that I was going to put my needs aside for someone else's or give up my dreams so I can be successful in society's eyes. There was no way that was happening because I felt embodied in my body through the dance, through the shamanic activations, through the womb work, etc., and connecting with the earth. So I have, been in touch with Malaika ever since. She's a dear friend and mentor of mine. We have facilitated workshops together, and she is someone that I learn so much from. Every time she's on the podcast, I am just like, yes, it is so deeply resonant. And I really want to have her on the podcast to talk about the coronavirus situation because it is, for many of us, the most traumatic thing that we've experienced. For a lot of us, many deep, deep, deep fears and shadows have come up. And also, the conversation of what is the world going to look like after this? And we all and I've been bringing different perspectives around coronavirus on. So we had Matt Kahn, who is very 5D in the light, just super beautiful light energy. And then we had Marianne, who has this beautiful warrior activist, very grounded in what is happening today. And Malaika has her own very earthly, shamanic, feminine energy. And it's, to me, very important to hear different perspectives, because from hearing different people's perspectives, it could bring in new elements into the picture. And also, as we go through this experience together, new aspects evolve. Again, as I said at the beginning, most of us thought this was going to be like 2 to 3 weeks. And here we are 2 months later, and the conversation of, are we going to all need a vaccine after this? Is there going to be this microchip? What is happening? And, we can get very, very caught up into things, but it's also important to have awareness without going crazy over it. So Malaika is someone who is an earth activist. She is very, very vocal and determined about protecting Gaia, and she brings this beautiful motherly energy to everything that she does, and this is exactly what she brings in this podcast. So she talks about the fears and concerns that are arising right now, and why it is more important than ever to tune into our bodies to feel what feels resonant for us, because as the situation continues to evolve, we might have to make some decisions for ourselves. And if we're not connected to our bodies, we might follow, the herd mentality instead of following what we truly believe and what our bodies are calling us to do. So she also guides us through a meditation to connect with our wombs at the end and anchor in the divine feminine energy that lives inside of us. So Malaika's episodes are always amongst favorites in the Highest Self podcast community, and I'm so excited to have her again for the third time. Without further ado, let's welcome Malaika Darville to the Highest Self podcast. And before we get started, I have an announcement for you. Are you that person that all your friends and family members come to when they need wellness advice? Are you constantly looking up new ways to heal and balance your mind, body, and spirit, including listening to this podcast? Well, have you ever considered having a career becoming a holistic health coach where you get to decide your own hours, work with people, tackling the subjects that you are the most passionate about, and having financial freedom along the way? Well, I'm so excited to be teaming up with my very own alma mater, Institute for Integrative Nutrition, to offer their biggest discount yet. You'll receive $2,250 off tuition, an extra bonus that they're offering just with my High Self podcast listeners on how to launch your dream book. This course is going to get you super clear on what your book is about and how to bring it out into the world. I've created a webinar for you on how to have a thriving business as a health coach. So using social media, creating passive income, how to have a wait list of clients and become the best known coach in your niche with raving testimonials. Tickets to a live upcoming IIN conference where I will be meeting you over there. Super excited to connect. And a bundle of all digital wellness guides like Ayurveda, self-love, whole food eating, etc. So all you have to do is head over to my show notes. You'll see the link over there. It's a little bit.ly link. It'll take you right there. You'll be able to receive a sample class, check out the curriculum, get all your questions answered. And I'm so excited to have you on this mission, raising the vibration of the planet together as a health coach. Again, head over to my show notes. You'll see the link right there, and I'll see you inside. What's your dosha? Well, if you want to find out, I invite you to take my quick little quiz over on IamSaharaRose.com. And in a couple questions, I will let you know the exact percentages of the doshas in your mind and in your body, and email you a free 3-day mini course on how to include Ayurveda into your modern lifestyle. So head over to my website, IamSaharaRose.com, to discover your dosha today. Welcome, Malaika, to the Highest Self podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Sahara. And it's so good to see you and see you looking so healthy and good and strong right now, too. Makes my heart sing.
Thank you, Queen. So the first question I'd love to ask you again is, what makes you your highest self?
So as always, my highest self is when I drop into that place in my heart, in my womb space, that is ever present, ever calm, ever loving, in a state of contentment and a state of connection to the earth and nature.
And you so beautifully embody that and teach so many people too. And this is why I'm so excited to talk to you today on the podcast about how we can connect back to our feminines, to our wombs, to our earths in this time that we really feel super just like rooted out of the earth and like put into this very sterile box. And we're missing that primal tribal energy. I mean, we're not even allowed to gather anymore. So I'd love for you to share, first of all, the importance of us connecting to our wombs and our physical bodies at this time.
Yes. And, the mind game that's going on, I just would like to speak to that of that, everything is about frequency. So we are just an electromagnetic frequency. And, even the virus, it's just a frequency. And, when we wake up to the power of what we generate through our own bodies, it's like there'll be a turning point in awakening in consciousness. So even if you're locked up, even if you're in lockdown and you can't have access to nature right now, which I feel extremely sad and sorry for the people that are in that situation. And I'm super grateful that I still have my connection to nature here in Bali. But, even though we're facing restrictions and stuff, but I live in nature, I don't even have a door, so I can't lock myself out of it. To know that we are a piece of the earth. We are a connection and a piece of the earth. So you have yourself to tune into. And one thing to remember is that love is always much more powerful than fear. So fear oscillates like this. It moves like this in this fashion, if you were to take it like as a frequency, and love moves like this.
Can you explain that for those who are just listening?
Okay, so fear moves in a linear fashion, straight back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in a very fast fashion. That's what happens to our nervous system, the vibration that's vibrating through the nervous system when you're in fear. And love oscillates in a circle, moving in a vibrational circle connected with the whole circle of the earth. And that frequency, if you take two pendulums and you have one going like this and one going straight back and forth and one going in a circle, eventually the one going in a circle is more powerful, will pull the other one through entrainment, will pull the other pendulum into its field and into its cycle. So right now, part of this agenda that's been rolling out to take away more of our civil liberties and more of our freedom is operating on the fear paradigm, because most people aren't aware of how powerful our thoughts are and how powerful our bodies are to emanate this energy and contribute to the collective field. So, it's pretty incredible how they've got the whole world in this fear paradigm and lockdown paradigm over something that as human beings, we have lived with forever. Viruses, bacteria, disease, we have lived with forever. And if anyone out there is listening to this and you smoke cigarettes, just go read the packet of your cigarettes. It says it right on there. This is going to kill you. And you still do it. And it does kill people. We get in cars every day. Do you know how many car accidents there were? Like way more than people have died from any flu, And now the statistics are starting to come out to show that, what they're really showing as all the massive deaths and the hospitals overflowing and everything else is actually not correct. And, doctors have been forced to label everything that every single person has died from during this time as, they're dying from this virus. And that's a lie. It's basically a lie. And a lot of people that have passed away, they have had underlying health conditions. And every year people die of the flu. So, but because of this mass media scare, which has made this virus out to be like the boogeyman that's like coming to get you, and, it's thrown everyone's nervous system into overdrive of survival, fight, flight, or freeze mode. And then believing, what the media is telling you, like, you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this. And then, the next thing they're going to tell you is, and you have to then, the only way you're going to survive this is get the mass vaccination. And it's like, it's a lead up to that. And if when you look at the whole agenda, you can see this buildup of fear that people will just be like, I'll do anything to be safe. It's really created this fear that collectively everybody is now contributing to. So the best thing that you can do, and the only thing that you can do at this time, is to really take control of the one part that you do have control of. There's a lot going on in the world right now that we really do not, seemingly have any control of. But the one thing that we do have control of, and we must take control of, is our response and our reaction. So if we're responding or reacting, if we're reacting, we've activated the nervous system and we're in fight or flight mode, and we're sending off a frequency of fear, and we're contributing to the whole virus of fear that's spreading all over the globe, instead of like coming back to, okay, breathe. I am healthy at this time. My body is healthy and strong at this time. My heart is beating. And even if you're in a concrete box, you can send your feet and the roots that come through the sole of your feet chakra down through all that concrete and through the concrete of the foundation of the building, and connect down back into the womb of Gaia. And draw that energy up into your own womb space. And, for women right now, really good time to tune into your moon cycle, to connect to your blood, to connect to the things that we have lost. This is not something that has happened, overnight. This has been an agenda on the earth that has been rolling out for a very long time. And, it's like I wanted to bring my symbol, this symbol of the Ankh, this ancient symbol, which when I was in Egypt, it was like, to understand what this symbol is, this is the womb. This is the lingam, or the penis. This is the Nile. So these two things coming together brought fertility. The sacred masculine, the sacred feminine coming together brought fertility to the earth. So this big open space at the top of the Ankh represented the womb. When the Romans came in and took over, they closed the womb and turned it into the cross. And then, and it has nothing to do with the teachings of what Jesus was bringing. Jesus was against taxes. He was against the authority and the governance and all these things. But what they did was, hang him from the cross and then put that in the churches. And for 2,000 years, we've been worshiping death, a man suffering in pain, dripping blood, pierced in his hands and his feet. Death. We weren't worshiping, there's very few churches where you see Jesus with his arms wide open and, the light shining from his heart of what he was actually here to teach people. But a lot of churches are still, him hanging there, dying, and that's what we've been worshiping. And that fear, that fear of death and that whole thing. And right now, this whole scenario has brought everyone to that point of confronting their own immortality. And we can see it as a really, really positive thing, because everything that we've created that has separated us from the earth has been because of our fear of death. And we've been running and running and running away from this fear of death. Even the whole American culture being set up with, trying to continually look young and not age. And, this whole fear of aging and this whole fear of losing our youth and all these things is a fear of death, which is then the false identification with the body being who you are. And it's not who you are, and I feel so blessed in my life that I have had so many incredibly traumatic and fearful experiences in my life that I'm a pretty fearless human being. There's very few things that I'm afraid of. And I'm definitely not afraid of death, because I know that you can't kill me, the me that is my higher self. Here we are on the Higher Self podcast. Well, that higher self, nobody can touch that. Nobody can touch that. That is immortal. And that's what everybody needs to be tuning into right now and really connecting with, to use this time to the utmost. This is not a time to be on holiday, people. This is not a time to be sitting there watching endless violent TV shows and Netflix series and garbage and filling your head with more garbage. This is a time to clean your mind, body, and spirit to wake up, and herald this new dawn, which is trying to birth. So the things that we can be aware of is that the earth moves in cycles and consciousness moves in cycles. And all the indigenous people have had prophecies. It's like I was joking with my friend, John DeCat, who we were supposed to be we would have just finished Rise Retreat yesterday had we been allowed to go ahead with it. But of course, everything's been canceled. So we didn't have our Rise Retreat, which was all about this, rising up and connecting to your higher self and connecting to the energies of the earth and connecting to your body and all of these things. And we were talking on the phone, and he was joking about, when in my past life, when I died in the bubonic plague in 1393 or something like this, I remember this, he was talking about the pandemic and stuff. And I said to him, I was in the bath at the time and kind of went into a lucid state. And I said it just like literally came through me in my past life as an indigenous person living in Turtle Island, which is North America. I remember the seer of the village, the seer being, the visionaries, the oracles, the people who could see into the future and tell us, what was coming. I remember the seer of the village saying that something was coming and our culture was going to change forever. And if you think of it, for indigenous people, the world over, when colonization came, that was a virus, that was the end of their life as they knew it, And what's just happened now, don't think that we're going to, if the lockdown is lifted tomorrow, life goes back to as it was. This is a turning point. This is a big ass turning point in the human history collectively right now. And we have the media giving us only one side of the story because they own the media and they're feeding their agenda. So we have to do our own research, which is also about diving inside. It's about connecting through things like this. It's about finding alternative spaces and people to connect to realize that on the earth, this is a planet of duality, masculine, feminine, light and dark, sun and moon, that there's always this balance between the light and the dark. So when we see, what's being exposed, all the shadows being exposed right now with all this pedophilia being exposed and everything else, the darkest of human consciousness. And again, that too, it's not something new. It's been going on in human history forever, And so now it's being exposed. It's like you have to think of it as a boil, like when you have a boil on your skin. You can't just keep putting Band-Aids on and, slabs on and, covering it up and hoping that it's going to go away. You have to go through this painful process of getting the core of that shit out, that pus and all that horrible stuff out in order for it to really heal. So what we are seeing right now is this density as we're moving into fifth dimensional vibration. We can't take these lower frequencies to that higher dimension. And the things that have thrived in that dimension and are power mongering, fear mongering, they don't want us to go to these higher dimensions because they can't exist in those higher dimensions. So they're doing everything possible to keep us in fear, in enslavement, to keep us in lockdown in third dimensional reality. So if you can see beyond the illusion that's being shown and realize that the light is as bright right now as the darkness is the light that's being shone on the darkness. And don't go into fear, just go into love and compassion. Love and compassion for all those beings that have chosen on one level, to incarnate at this time and go through that suffering in order to expose that level of darkness that exists on our planet, which is not okay anymore. And if we really want to birth the new earth, and if we really want to birth a new way of being, we need to each and every single person take self-responsibility at this time. It's not about blaming the virus or blaming the governments or blaming the pedophiles or blaming anyone else. It's about taking full self-responsibility right now. What has been my part in the orchestration of all of this? It really is a time of great awakening. It's a time for each person to come to know yourself, to come to love yourself, and to come to know that you are not this body, to face death. because already so many people were living like zombies in the world. They were already slaves and living like zombies in the world. They were too afraid to really live their life for themselves. Because, it's like when I set birds free. Sometimes when I take a little bird out of the cage and I'm holding it there with this big, vast open sky, it stands there on my hand like it's been flapping around in that cage going, I want freedom, I want freedom. And then when I pull it out of the cage and it's standing there on my hand, it takes a moment and it's like scared to fly off because, real freedom comes at a big cost of all these false securities that we clung to and hung on to, which then when you wake up and go, wow, they were all lies and false securities, including our false identity with the self as the body. We are not this body. This body is a gift. This body is your part of the earth. So if you can't connect to the earth right now, if you're in lockdown and you can't connect to the earth right now, that's a lie. You can connect to your living, breathing human body. So use this time to deeply love yourself, to deeply connect to your physical body, to all the cells that are pumping and moving, working for you 94/7, like that vibration is the most powerful vibration that you have to connect to. It's like, I think I said in one of the other podcasts when I was talking to you that, your mother grew you inside her womb, inside her body. And she didn't have to think, today I'm growing Sahara's beautiful eyes. Today I'm growing, Sahara's beautiful face. Today I'm growing Sahara's brain, that's going to think and do all these incredible things. Today I'm growing the liver. Today I'm growing the kidney. This complex organism that we are as a human being. And our bodies do that because our body is the part of us connected to God. And when I tune in to the message of Jesus, for me, Christ consciousness, what he was saying was, I am the Son of God, and so are you. It wasn't saying worship me. It was saying know thyself as the God consciousness, as the Christ consciousness, as the awakened being. Buddha saying exactly the same thing, and how did they do it? They had to go through suffering. They had to go through a crisis. So we are collectively going through this crisis right now, and we can either choose to stay in the darkness and go down the path of fear, or we can choose to utilize this time to really, really connect to our physical body as the divine emanation of the one consciousness and use it correctly. We can connect to all the things that we love in life and visualize and use the power of the human imagination to start visualizing and holding that vision like a dream. I mean, come on, everybody. We've been doing all these law of attraction and all these yoga classes and all these meditation classes and everything else. And now suddenly the pandemic rolls out and everybody's like, well, forget all that. I'm just in fear. I'm just worried about where my next meal is coming from. It's like, no, this is a time where all those things that we've learned, this is the time to put it into real practice. And just like many people that I know that have died from cancer, they will say that getting the cancer was the greatest gift that they ever were given, because it was through that crisis they stopped doing all the things that led them to that place in their life where they got the cancer. And they were forced to stop because the body was breaking down and they could no longer do what they were doing. And they had to come to a place of being. And when they came to a place of being, they tapped into something inside of themselves that was far greater than their human body. And, then when they were confronted with leaving this world, they were in a state of euphoria of like, there was no more fear of death anymore. And there was like extreme love and compassion and forgiveness for all the things that had happened in their life that they had perceived in the past as, from the victim consciousness that something really bad had happened to me, instead of seeing it as, wow, what a gift that was, and what a gift that was, and what a gift this was. And it's all led me to this point right here, right now. So collectively, we're all going through that right now. Collectively, we're all in this crisis point of making these conscious choices. And the one thing, if I can leave anybody with anything, is just to remember that love is more powerful than fear. And fear preys on our ignorance and our coercion and acceptance And, we've been fed, especially in America, on a culture, a fear-driven culture for eons. The whole founding of America has been fed on this diet of fear. I mean, look at what little children are watching on videos and TV. It's murder and death and fear and violence continually. And yet if you see a naked breast or you see a woman breastfeeding, which is the most natural thing in the whole world, that is blocked on Facebook or, on these social media platforms, yet you can see, 500,000 murders in a year on television, and that's okay. Well, that has to not be okay anymore. If we want to shift our consciousness, we have to look at what are we feeding into the mind. The mind is a sponge, especially our little children. So during this time, and I know it's really hard, I've been, spending a lot of time with my grandchildren at this time, and the temptation to just like, oh my God, like 24/7 with little children, it's so easy to just whack on the videos and stick them in front of the screen and just leave them there because then they're quiet and they're not disturbing you. Well, this is actually time to really get to know your children, time to relearn again how to parent children, and in that learn how to reparent yourself out of fear, back into joy, back into play. We've been doing tons of dancing with the kids. My grandson's doing tons of little break dances, choreographies that he's creating, and tons of drawing, tons of working out, play, lots of cooking, teaching them how to cook, going away from the fast food movement. So all these things that have taken us further and further and further and further away from the earth, use this time in your own little world to bring you closer and closer and closer to what creates more love, what creates more connection, with those you love. And yeah, that's really like the biggest message I feel like I can share at this time.
I love that so much. And when you were speaking, it was reminding me of Goddess Kalima, who is our goddess this month in Rose Gold Goddesses, and just that energy of radical rebirth and going into the womb and going into the unknown and looking face to face with death and realizing that that is, the sacred portal into life. So can you speak into your relationship with Goddess Kali and the different goddesses that you're evoking at this time?
Yes. Yeah. So, Kali, a lot of people fear her, and, the Kali temples and everything in India, and she's been feared, and my understanding of her is like, India, this ancient culture. And when you go into like the psyche of different cultures, they have portrayed concepts, huge concepts of the universe with humanized pictures, So to me, Kali she's the force of nature. She's the force of the universe that destroys things in order for new life to come. So when a volcano is erupting, that's Kali, life force energy. In Hawaiian, they call her Pele. And when I was in the Big Island and watching that birthing of new earth, literally birthing of new earth, it's so volatile. It's just like so raw. The Big Island is so freaking raw when there's like lava flows flowing down. And then, like a week later, out of this black lava, you see this coconut, green shooting this black lava, and just going, wow, like that's how new earth is. And when my experience of witnessing women giving birth, it's exactly the same. It's Kali who comes through, because what's being destroyed or what's dying is the maiden. The maiden needs to die in order for the mother to be birthed. And that is transition, and when a woman's going through transition, which is what we're all in like right now, is this transition, and, that's usually when the midwife has to come in and coach the woman, like, you can do this, you've got this, breathe, remember how to breathe, remember, you're birthing your baby and you're almost there, and all that encouragement. And usually what happens in our society now is like, okay, here's the easy out, go for the cesarean so you don't have to go through this portal. And right now there is no easy out, there is no cesarean that's going to just pluck us out of this. We each have to go through this transition, which is, I remember my own birth, the fear that was coming up around like, I can't do it. And my partner's saying, you got this, you can do this, you can do this. And then suddenly what happens is this surge of energy, like all these hormones that are released in the body. And, suddenly like I've watched, very shy and timid and sweet, calm little women when they're going through that transition. And suddenly you see Kali like coming into them. I'm like, right. Oh, and Durga, and this like, this roaring lion woman birthing, like opening her body and trusting her body and new life coming out of her vagina. It's just like got to be the greatest miracle on earth, to witness and to know that every single woman, whether you have children or whether you're going to have children or not in this lifetime, every single woman has that potential within her to birth herself and to birth projects and to birth new earth. But it takes that power and that courage and that strength, like Kali, when you see her like depicted in the Indian Vedas, she's wielding a sword, and she's holding, like she's chopped a man's head off and she's holding it dripping of blood. I mean, it could look so macabre and people could go, oh my God, that's, satanic, or, is she like part of that whole cult? And it's like, no, what it was depicting was her rage and anger at ignorance, cutting off the head of ignorance and stepping on the body of ignorance, to rise above all this ignorance and say, wake up, people, that is not truth. And then, when Shiva comes along with his pure presence and pure consciousness comes back into the picture, he penetrates Kali's heart and she turns into Durga or Parvati, the goddess of love and nurturing and, all those other aspects of the feminine, to nurture and care and love and compassion. And, all of them are like different faces of the divine feminine, that the goddesses in the Veda. They're all different faces. And some of us embody, more of one face of a different goddess at different times in our lives. And so when we are in this phase of embodying the Kali energy, that's the time when we need to like find that fierceness, like stay connected to the heart. Because what we have to also remember in these times is that there are other entities, for want of less of a better word, that harvest and use our human energy. As I was saying, that we're all these frequencies and we're emitting energy constantly. We are a transmitter and we're transmitting energy. And when we're transmitting anger, when we're transmitting, fear, then we're feeding those entities. But when we transform anger and use it as that raw, like that anger that a mother has to her children when she's disciplining her children, but she still loves them so unconditionally, but she's saying, enough. No, you cannot do that. Enough. For the good of the child, to help them to learn, for their own safety or whatever. She's doing it out of love. So that's where we need to connect this Kali energy back to the love for the planet. No, we're not going to we're not going to lay down and let you walk all over us and take away all of our freedoms and take away everything. We are going to rise up, but we're not going to go out there with our guns and start killing people either and feed into this chaotic fear frenzy. We're going to stay connected to our hearts, because once we're connected to that place inside of ourselves that is eternal, and we know that, no one can hurt this physical body. This physical body one day is going to die. It is going to go back to the earth. So when we can connect into those archetypes within our own body and find that fierceness and find that love and compassion, that's when we're going to be a force to reckon with. And that's what we should all be practicing in our practices at this time, not just wasting this time that we have in this calm before the storm, to really come to these places inside ourselves, so that when we're really in the face of fear and really having to stand up for our rights, we're going to be fearless in doing so. Let's see what card I picked from the Rose Goddess card.
Yes, the Yogic Path deck. Let's see who you pull.
Yes, I have it. Yes, let's see who wants to come forward today. the highest good of all. Sita.
Ooh. So Sita's the
Sita.
devotion.
I've been getting that devotion card a lot of late. So what are you devoted to? Where are you putting your focus? Where are you putting your energy? Are you repeating, CV and all the stories 24/7 in your household and calling that energy in? Because our words have power, our thoughts have power, and our actions have power. So remember how powerful you are. So if you don't want to call any of this in, don't use the word. Don't call it in. Don't make it your reality. It's not my reality. Don't make it your reality. Just, stay in your field. Sita, the devotion to your body right now. If you're feeling a lot of fear and anxiety, which I know a lot of people are at this time, and I feel a lot of love and compassion for those who have been in isolation, especially because that's like one of the worst things in the world for human beings. I mean, we didn't become a super species by, doing it on our own. We became super species because of our ability to have extended families and connect and be part of tribes. And, that's how we became the super species on the planet. And now to be putting people in social isolation, that aren't maybe even with their families. Like I have some friends that are like totally on their own. I really feel love and compassion. And, this internet face of being able to connect through the internet is a blessing for now. We have this, but what happens if that goes down, So some of the other things I wanted to talk about is like, get yourself a pet, a cat, a dog, something that you can physically cuddle, touch, to keep that heartbeat of another with you, that you have something that you can talk to. I'm sure that you can still go out, and I'm sure I know here in Bali, there's like so many animals that have been abandoned, because everybody left the island. So there's a lot of creatures that need homes at this time. And it's one of the things that they've proven already raises people's immunity in old age homes when those old people are allowed to have a little dog or a little cat or something, because it's connection. It's connection to nature. We need our connection to nature, and utilize your time when you do get to go out. Go stand, even if you just stand for 10 minutes, take your shoes off and put your feet on the bare earth. It's coming into spring now in North America. So, get your shoes off, and your 5 minutes, 10 minutes, hour, whatever, how long, I don't know what's happening over there, but just put your feet in the park and get your feet connected to the earth, and take a moment to breathe and drink up. Like think of the chakra in the soles of the feet as a straw, that you can plug in to the earth and suck up energy into your womb space, into your heart space, into your whole body. And remember that the earth loves you so much. She loves us so much. And remember that the forces of light, the beings of light who have been watching over the earth, like something that we never see on the 6 o'clock news or on the media, is take a look at all the crop circles that are appearing. The 2019 crop circles and the 2020 crop circles. Why don't we see these incredible phenomena? I mean, these are incredible sacred geometry, larger than 2 football fields, that happen in an instant, that are in absolute perfect sacred geometry. And they're trying to tell you that that is a hoax.
Do you think that it is other extraterrestrials doing this, or do you think it's Earth sending us the message?
I think that, we had come to a stage in the Earth's evolution because of the interference that came to the Earth a long, long time ago. And there's a law that says that no other being is allowed to interfere with another being's evolution unless asked. So because of that proverbial ask, it's like the virus, right? Unless you ask for it to come into your body, it can't come into your body. So by you speaking about it all the time and calling it by name all the time, you're actually inviting it. You're actually giving it permission to come into your space. So don't use the word. I don't use the word. And so what I see with the crop circles is that we have developed these incredible weapons of mass destruction that can destroy the whole earth, nuclear weapons, right? And we become so out of alignment that the earth herself is using the consciousness of the earth herself. The light beings, they respect that law. They do not interfere with our evolution unless asked. And now I feel like the earth herself, she for a long time now has been asking from the inside out. If anybody remembers that movie Exorcist with Linda Blair, and in that movie she gets possessed by the devil apparently. So the little girl, and she's spitting like green snot, and I mean, it was a really horrific movie. And then the soul of the child that's inside of there, from her belly, out of her belly comes the words, like raised out of her belly, help me, comes out of her belly, raised, and that was like the soul that was overtaken by an entity, that was like doing all kinds of horrific things and throwing people around the room and like was completely scary and violent. But the soul of the child, so was coming out and saying, help me. So what I see on the microcosm as a macrocosm, that these crop circles are the earth creating these. When they've studied the wheat is not broken. It's it's braided. So if you take a wheat stem and you try and braid it, it's going to break, none of this is broken. And the wheat is actually vibrating at an extremely high vibration. And there's a buzzing sound that's coming from these sacred geometry fields. And these sacred geometries are things that are ancient. They've been shown up in all of our, ancient, even going way back, like past Egyptian times, and in primitive art and everything. These symbols are showing up everywhere. Flower of life, all these dodecahedrons, all these incredible metaphysical sacred geometries, which we're only beginning to start to understand now. And they're so huge that as a human being, when you're standing in one, you can't see what the pattern is. The pattern can only be seen from a high elevation above the earth. So who the hell is it for? You know what I mean? It's like, it's a symbol, it's a code, and it can only be seen high above the earth. What I see it as is the earth inviting the light beings to come back to the earth to interfere, because for too long now we have been heading down this darkness path that we've nearly destroyed the earth's ecosystem, and we see how quickly in this lockdown, one of the benefits of this lockdown has been how quickly the sky has turned blue again. The stars are being seen again at night. The rivers are becoming to be clean again. The animals, creatures that haven't been seen for eons are starting to reappear again. I mean, she is magnificent. And with us removed, we can see how quickly she can heal and come back to her balance and restore balance and harmony back on this earth. And so one of the other things that we should be doing during this time is rethinking. It's not about us, going back to work and going back to life as it was. That is not going to happen. This is where we should all be sitting indoors and thinking about, where have I been completely out of balance with the earth? And now how am I going to get back into balance with the earth? And how are we collectively going to do things differently that is earth first? Because without clean air, without clean water, without clean food, we are ending the human species exactly where we are, with pandemics of disease. We already have pandemics. Cancer is a pandemic on this planet, and here in Bali, it's crazy. They are spraying Roundup like it's freaking hairspray. The amount of disease and deformities that I'm seeing on the islands, in recent times, like one of them is the cleft palate, and hair lip, when you see this. And, in Bali, they hide away children that are born deformed because it's an embarrassment to the family. They think it is something karmically that they've done wrong, and that's why they have these deformed children. But there's one lady who started an organization, and last year I was doing some work with those kids. And what I can see is those things are coming from chemical poisoning. So my work right now, what I want to do is work with the farmers to educate them and to get them back to growing organic rice. And I've been in contact with a farmer who has organic seed, and I'm trying to organize the farmers, that we can get them these organic Bali traditional seeds, which they can save, they can plant. They don't need to get locked up into this money thing, but it's shifting the mentality, because we've all become lazy. Like even here in Bali, to weed a field might take 4 days of weeding. So it's a lot more work versus 1 hour of spraying a toxic chemical. But if you're then in the future, your child is going to be born deformed and you have to spend how many hours? People who have a child with disabilities, it's a lifetime job and commitment of how much hours you're going to have to put in to just keep that child alive. And so what is better? Let's put the time in. Sure, it's going to take time to turn things around. It's like we've been on a ship, they say when there's these big giant ocean tankers, when they're going forward, moving forward, even when you cut the engine is, long time that the ship is still moving forward before it comes to a full stop and you can turn it around and go the other direction. So that's what I see this time is right now. And, like Sita, we have to look at where are we devoting our time? That's one thing that we all have been given at this time. Are we still trying to create business as usual? Are we still trying to do things normal as life as normal instead of going, okay, this is our big wake up call, humanity. We're at a turning point. We're not in checkmate yet. If we lay down or we sit there in that corner, the next move is checkmate and it's all over Red Rover. We're going to have like decades more of hell to deal with to get out of this right now. But while we still have rights and we still have our abilities to stand up for what we believe in and to create the new earth and to realize that, we as individuals, we as human beings, we as women, we as men, we as children, we have power just in our love. There's an African proverb that says, if you feel powerless right now, if you feel too small to make any kind of change whatsoever, spend the night in a room with one mosquito. Incredibly small, little, tiny freaking insect can disrupt your sleep, can wreak havoc in your life, from this tiny insect. So each person has a role to play right now. You remember from the training, everybody gets a seed, and that seed is your seed of your gifts. Mm-hmm. And that seed blossoms into a tree, and those fruits are the fruits that are relevant for each person, depending on what is your shave. In Africa, they call it your shave. Your shave is your God-given gifts that you have, that each person has a gift and each person has a role to play right now. So even if just turning off the television, just focusing on your meditation, focusing on your breathing, doing self-practices of self-love, not like just forcing yourself to get the best body in the world during this time, but actually focusing on loving your body. Clean out your cupboards, get rid of all the shit. Look at all the chemicals that's in the food that you've been consuming. Get rid of it all. Become educated about what's going into your body. Become educated about what's been happening on the earth. Become educated about, alternative ways of educating your children at this time. Become educated about alternative ways of how to grow food at this time. Get yourself some seeds or just some of the, if you buy organic food, open up a tomato and get a planter box, from the hardware and some dirt and start growing some little plants on your balcony if you're in an apartment building.
What do you think is good? What plants do you think are good for the balcony, apartments, people who don't have access to outdoor soil?
Don't have access to a big garden?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So the first and foremost thing to remember is to try and get organic seed. So like tomatoes are really easy to grow in potter boxes on your balcony. And what you would do is I've been doing these little garden series that you can tune into on Facebook, where I have a few videos where I've shown like how to save the seeds and plant the seeds. So you need to get a potter box. You need to get some good composting soil. You can plant your tomatoes in there and water them and have them in a place where they're getting enough sun, but not baked by the sun. And and just, it's so fascinating. It's fun to watch something grow. I find it really amazing to watch little things sprout out of the dirt, So tomatoes, beans are really easy to grow. You can grow beans like out of the potter boxes, and they need something to climb on. They can climb up all the trellises and the balcony posts on the balcony. With something else, basil is a really good. You can have all your herbs and just having some fresh herbs and growing fresh herbs and adding fresh herbs into your diet, whatever you're cooking, is a really great immune booster at this time. So, things like that are really easy to grow. And in Cuba, when they had the embargo was put on Cuba and they were no longer allowed to import or export anything. And what Fidel Castro had done was, when he realized what was happening, was he got tons and tons of seeds and gave everybody seeds and just said, grow wherever you can, grow food. So like even laneways and balconies, and still to this day, people always have like potter boxes on their balconies while everybody's growing their own tomatoes or growing their own basil or their own, a few things that they can grow for themselves. And the thing that is really important to remember, though, is that the seeds, if you buy seeds and you see on the packet F1, those are hybridized seeds and you can't regrow those seeds again. So it's really important that you have to find heirloom seeds, which you can find online. And there's different seed companies that sell those. And you can maybe find them from a local health food store might sell them. But it's really important that you have organic seed or you won't produce anything when you try growing.
That's all such good advice. Yeah, I actually bought this little kit that you grow your own sprouts, and it really doesn't even need sunlight. Like even if you live in a place with no windows, you can grow your own sprouts. It literally will grow anywhere. So
and sprouts are so great. They're so high in nutrition. Like mung beans are the easiest ones, and all you need is a jar, just a jar, and soak the mung beans for a couple of hours overnight, and then get a piece of like muslin cloth or cloth and tie it on with a rubber band and put them in the dish rack where the water is draining out, and just watch them sprout. And when they get to like how big you want them, then you put them in the fridge and you've got fresh sprouted mung beans. It's the easiest thing in the world to grow.
I love that. And I think most of us, have never grown our own food. So we think these things are super complicated or going to take so much time, et cetera. And it's really not. And it really is so easy. Just like you said, like the womb creates the body, like the plant just does its job. It knows what to do. It just needs a little bit of water every now and then. And I think that this is really a blessing for us. Like we've talked for so long about the slow food movement, about like growing our own stuff, about like here in the animal shelters, for the first time, many of them have completely adopted all of their pets because people which is amazing. So all of these things that we thought were just like worldwide problems that will never be fixed and never be solved. Like I saw a freaking humpback whale from my window, which I've never seen before, So it's like Earth so quickly in 1 month is healing herself so much. So I'd love to know from your perspective, Malaika, do you think that Earth was maybe behind some of this because she needed a break to breathe?
Interesting question. I think that the Earth was pushing us in a direction to wake up for sure. But I do feel that this is being a man-made condition. And what is rolling out with the fear paradigm and where they're keeping consciousness, trying to keep consciousness in that fear paradigm, I feel that is a man-made condition. And that what we're seeing right now is kind of like the calm before the storm when we look at what's happening with 5G, which is not going to be good for the Earth and not good for wildlife and not good for humans. And in the places where they've already rolled it out, those are the places where they've had the highest incidences of virus outbreaks. So that is one of the things that, like if we're all in lockdown and nobody has any jobs and everything, why are they in such a rush to get these mobile towers up everywhere? And they're putting them up everywhere so we can download our movies faster while we're in lockdown. It's like, it doesn't make sense. And those are not going to be good for nature. I don't know if you remember the time, I forget what year it was, when all the starlings fell out of the sky in the States. And somewhere down in the south of the States, there was like all these birds, just thousands of them fell out of the sky. And there was also the incidences of all these whales beaching themselves. There was blood coming from their ears. Those are low frequency vibrations that was causing that. So that's what the 5G is. And that's not good for anybody. So those are the kind of things that people need to be becoming active with. of speaking to their, getting petitions and speaking to their governments and saying, no, we don't want this and we're not going to accept this and we don't want to have this. Like, do research on that. So I feel like right now the earth is having a little break. And in that, we can use this window to see like how quickly she does heal and how quickly nature does come back. And then collectively as a species, we actually need to really all want that and vote for that and only support those beings who are in any kind of form, way, shape, or form in power, who are also in support of things that are life-giving and life-affirming. So that is like, I think it can be a little bit delusional if we think that, the earth's just healing and we're in this like nice portal and everybody's just, been forced to take a break. But no, it's a man-made scenario right now. And not everybody is out of work right now. Look what's still working.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I think it's like
still out there. Yeah. Putting up these towers and they're working overtime. So we need to also collectively come together on this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's looking at it from all dimensions, even the dimensions that might be more difficult to look at. Like, yes, there is a virus and there are people who get the virus and do experience suffering and even death. And yes, there is a lot more happening that we are not aware of. And some things that we might think, well, why would our government ever want to do that to us? It's like, well, if you read the history, our government hasn't really always had our back. And then also on that highest level perspective, Earth can shake us off like fleas if she chooses to. Like, she could be like, okay, you humans are taking this too far, like earthquake, flood, game over. So I kind of think we have to get our act together if we want the privilege to remain on this planet.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, it's like with sustainable agriculture, when you look into it, like in some of the places in India where they moved away from industrial agriculture. And at first, like going back to organic farming, it was really difficult because the soil is, dead and it's all been compacted from heavy machinery. And, and it does require a lot of work. Like growing food is not an easy thing. It does require a lot of work, but we have systems now. We have systems like aquaponics and hydroponics. We can grow a hell of a lot of food in small amounts of area sustainably with these systems. So where our governments have been putting a lot of subsidies, government subsidies, like subsidizing farmers to grow with all these chemicals and everything else, we the people need to wake up and say, we don't want that anymore. And we're refusing to eat that and buy that anymore. We only want this and we're only going to support this and start supporting the people who are providing that. Because one, they're the people who are working the hardest for the planet. They don't only just care about profits, they care about supporting the planet. And so, each one of us can make a difference in our choices of what we buy and what we support, and looking into how can I as an individual make a difference. If we're not composting, start composting, because putting all of our composted waste mixed in with plastic into the earth is contaminating the groundwater. And, when we think of like living here in a place where there is no recycling, there is no away, and really the whole planet, there is no away, people. Where is away? I put the garbage in the garbage can and it's taken away. Well, where is away? The ocean, the whales, we've seen whales that have been tangled up in, thousands of tons of plastic, nearly drowning because they're so tangled up in our waste. Like when I just cleaned our little piece of the river down here, one tiny little piece of the river, and we pulled out 15 huge rice sacks full of plastic from one tiny little place in the river. And it was disgusting. And it was like, this is us, people. This is us. This is what we're doing. This is just one little example of what we as human beings are doing on the planet, because all we've cared about, and we've each been complacent with, I just care about me and I just care about mine and I just care about, my profit, my life, my, thing. And, we haven't been thinking globally. And I feel like what is awakening is the awareness that we really are all one. We are really all in this together. And the world has become a very small place all of a sudden, through this, and where people are realizing, wow, we are all one. We are all in this together. And rather than relying on, a new type of government that has never had our backs, like you said. We actually need to start relying on more self-governance and self-reliability instead of giving our power away outside of ourselves, asking something outside of ourselves that has its own agenda to look after us. It never has, and it never will. It's like we, the people, need to take back that control and say, no, we're not going to tolerate this anymore, and start creating the systems that we know are available. They've been available for years, but it's power has had power over us. And in the Mayan calendar right now, what is transitioning is we're moving out of power into ethics. So power being power doesn't want to give up its place, and that's what's fighting to maintain its power. But ethics is what is moving thick and fast into its place. And before this whole thing happened, you could see that businesses were starting to get more aware and more ethical. And, by the way, something that I read somewhere that was passed in the States, that Trump passed in the States, was waiving all regulations for factories and corporations in America at this time, during the COVID time. So meaning that they could self-regulate. So a factory that's producing a known toxic chemical, and the environmental impact statement that has said, okay, this company produces this toxic chemical and it's only allowed to release this much of it into the environment, which is, supposedly allowable for, safety for humans to be exposed to. And now that has been waived during this time. And while everybody's been busy in lockdown and rushing around and doing whatever they're doing, these kind of laws have been passed. And will they roll back when this is finished? I highly doubt it. So we're worried about a virus that could possibly give you a lung disease that could possibly kill you, but we're not worried about a company that's producing chemicals that definitely is going to kill you, that has just been granted self-regulation to put as much of that chemical out into the environment as they want. That's something I'm scared of, I would be worried about. So
Yes.
Those kind of things, look through the smoke screens and see what's really going on. Find out what is your government, what laws have been passed. Trump even said it in one of his speeches around, I've just passed 7 pieces of legislation. Well, find out what those 7 pieces of legislation are, before it's too late. And if there's things that are not in agreement with how you want to see the new earth being birthed, then that's when people need to start making some noise before democracy is no longer, you no longer have that freedom to do that.
Yes, I think it's really important right now to be paying attention, because we are so focused on one issue, and we've forgotten that, there are so many different factors at play, so many things that are still killing people that we're not paying attention to. Like someone posted interesting, they were like, so I guess cancer deaths have not happened, since February, because no one's talking about that anymore, even though cancer is such a big thing that's still happening. So it's just a good reminder for us to always be looking from this big picture lens and stay in our hearts and do our practices and be aware of what's happening in the world, and, take that responsibility too. Like, we can't expect someone else to fix it. I see both sides of people who are completely in the fear, completely just like they need to find their way back into their hearts. And then I see a lot of people, like I'm sure you see in Bali, who are like completely avoidant of the whole situation, just thinking, oh, whatever, they'll just figure it out, not realizing that each and everyone has a voice. So I love how you are, you're so galactic and also so grounded, and you carry these two poles so well. And that's really how we get to walk in the new paradigm, in feet on the earth and head in the stars.
Yeah. And, while you were just talking, I drew from my, my deck of cards, Work Your Light, Oracle cards by Rebecca Campbell. And I drew the protection card, and it's a group of priestesses standing in a circle with this beautiful new moon eclipse. And it says, call back your power, cut the cords, and soul retrieval. So what I feel is happening is this soul retrieval of the earth. So the blueprint of the earth is abundance. The blueprint of the earth is pure abundance. And it's only been through mismanagement of her resources, through greed, that we have created lack and the consciousness of lack on this planet. And when we can come back to retrieving the soul of the earth and realizing that she is our mother and she loves us so, so much, and align ourselves with that power that we each one of us have within us, then we are divinely protected. Nothing can touch us. We are sitting in that place of divine protection and light. And each one of us can do that, and it's really important right now for each one of us to do that, and to reach out if you're struggling, right now, to reach out through the internet right now to find the support that you need, because it's there. It's there to help you to calm down. It's there to help you to come back and regain your power.
Yes, and not to get sucked into the fear. And
no, because it goes back into the whole. It's the biggest drama triangle you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember we did the drama triangle, or maybe I wasn't doing that back then, but I in my trainings I always do the a play of the drama triangle with masks, and Bali has these great masks, so you can have the perpetrator like one of those Balinese masks with the big fangs, and and then have the meek little victim, with this little mask that doesn't say anything and has no mouth even, so it can't even speak, like the mask over your mouth. It's not a muzzle, people. And then the hero, kind of runs around like a frog face, sticking their head into everyone else's business. And it's exhausting. The drama triangle leaves everyone exhausted, and everyone, even the perpetrator, is exhausted and a victim in the drama triangle. And that's been our model for relationships. It's been our model for how we've been doing so much in our world right now. And this is also up for reevaluation, that this is a model that's exhausting. So how do we exit the drama triangle? We start to communicate. We start to communicate what our real needs are, because the drama triangle exists because of the inner wounded child that created dysfunctional behaviors to get their needs met. So through that deep wound that the child had, the patterns that they learned, only when I'm crying and hurt and, sad does my mother give me a hug or give me any attention. And then suddenly something forms in the brain of like that pattern of the only way that I'm going to get attention is when I'm in that state. The only way I'm going to get love. It's all a game to get love, because what's happened is humans have been severed from the source of love, or illusionarily thought that we are severed from that source of love, which is the earth. And like you said, the cosmos, tuning into the divine consciousness, whether you want to call that God, or you want to call it source, or you want to call it, I just made up a song last week, of Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Wankantanka, Bayami, doesn't matter who you pray to. We are all one under the same sun, same moon, same stars, same earth, same tree, same air we breathe, and same water we need. We are all one. And so, when we kind of like come back to that and can tap into that source of love that is holding us on this planet, that's hurtling through space at 800 kilometers per second, that forces flowers to even find a crack in the pavement to come up and blossom. It's not like the earth, when people say, oh, the earth, and she's like sad and crying and everything else. No, if you look at her, you chop down a tree, she just starts branches out to the side of that tree. Like I watch that all the time here in Bali. She doesn't give up and just go, oh, they've hurt me, they've cut me down, and go into victimhood. No, she just finds a way. They block the river, they turned off the waterfall, she just finds a new path and the water starts flowing somewhere else. The earth is amazing. She is our greatest teacher to look at right now and see how she finds a new way, always trying to teach us. It's time for us to listen.
Yes, absolutely. So beautifully said. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I know listeners right now are feeling so inspired to just connect back to earth and listen to her whispers. And I know, so many of us, maybe it's been a long time that we've actually felt the earth on our bodies, and, finding, if it's safe where you live, a tree, a plant, just touch it. Talk to it, listen to it, maybe get plants for your house right now and build a relationship with them. The animals, like Malaika mentioned, and then your own body. Your body is your earth. Your womb is this earth that you get to walk around with. So feeling that.
Yeah. So maybe we should close with a little meditation, a womb meditation to help people. That's something that they can keep practicing and keep doing at home whenever they get, overstimulated in the mind and leave their body and get into fear, and which is all just, paradigm of the mind. So I'd really love to offer this beautiful meditation. And I'm going to just draw one other card from my other deck, which is from a beautiful artist friend of mine, and Autumn Sky. You might know her. I've heard of Autumn Sky. She does beautiful paintings and beautiful artwork, and she's turned her paintings into these incredible cards that I've been using for years now. So I just want to draw a card for the collective consciousness of what is the best way for us to stay grounded in our bodies at this time, and what is the best way for us to move forward with love and compassion at this time. Receive. Connection. You're not going to believe what it is. So it's a picture of a naked woman with butterflies buzzing all around her head, and she's sitting on like a grid, like a computer grid, and it's all black, the card. And the card is called Connection. And it says, break isolation. Seek what brings you vitality. We are all interdependent. Reach out for support, and you are not alone.
So beautiful and so needed right now.
Yes. And so now I'm going to invite everybody to, let's take a nice, deep, deep, deep breath in. And I would like to give you this prayer that is a prayer that you can use. And it's very important the way that we use these words in the prayer at this time of when we're doing any kind of invocation, to only invoke those energies that love us unconditionally, that work with us and through us for our highest good, including our ancestors. When we call upon our ancestors, only our ancestors who are healthy and well. So I'm going to call in, do this invitation, invite you to place your hands on your womb space. Take a deep, deep breath, lean back and be super comfortable in your human body and your human skin. Feel your heart beating. Maybe you want to put your right hand up on your heart and your left hand down on your womb. Take some nice, long, full, deep inhalations. Full, complete exhalations. Do that again. Full, deep inhalation. Full, complete exhalation. Letting go of the old, letting go of all fear, letting go of any stagnant energy. Feel your diaphragm moving, your heart beating, and then sliding your hands down to your womb space and calling upon the energies that love you so unconditionally. The energies that have been with you for your whole life, your guardian angel that loved you and loved you unconditionally, watches over you and is your guide. Calling upon your ancestors, those ancestors who dwell in the light, those ancestors who love you unconditionally, those ancestors that work with you and through you for your highest good and the highest good of others. Welcome them into your womb space to communicate to you, to talk to you. And taking some deep, deep, deep breaths as you completely relax your body. Start to tune into all the sensations in your body. Sensation is a way that we can come back to the law of impermanence. That sensation is moving and changing at all times and has been there since the day we were born and will be there on the last day when we take our last breath. So tuning into those sensations, watching how they change and move in the body, feeling the sensations in the womb, feeling this connection to your womb space. If there's any tears or sadness there, the womb holds on to all the imprints of everything we've ever experienced in our life before. So let her cleanse herself through your body. She knows how to let go as well. Just like the earth knows how to let go of what no longer serves her. So just letting and allowing whatever is there to be there. And make this connection with your womb space. Make this connection to your womb space as your best friend. So when you go into fear, take your hand up to your heart, and just the same way as you would pat your cat or your dog, pat your heart. Just stroke the energy going downward towards your womb, from your heart down towards your womb with your right hand. Keep your left hand, the heat going into your womb. Get that warmth back into your body and breathe down into your womb space. And just like a mother that would comfort a child when she's been spooked or scared, and you can see that maybe the clothes hanging over the chair that the child thought was a big boogeyman was just clothes hanging over the chair. It was an illusion. It wasn't real, but the child is in fear. So comfort your inner child and tell her that it's okay. There's nothing to be scared of. It's okay. You're safe right now. You're totally safe. You're totally protected. And watching over this beautiful little child. Hold her in your arms. Comfort her. Give her everything she needs. And feel the heat and the warmth coming down into your womb space. And just keep reminding yourself that you are safe. You are safe in this body. This being in this body is safe. This body is healthy and strong. It knows how to fight everything that comes at it. It has been doing that since time immemorable. And take a big, big breath in, into your heart, and let go of anything that is unlike the vibration of love. And coming back to center again, feeling grounded in your body. And take your arms up from your womb space and give yourself the biggest hug. Stroke your own skin, feel the hands on your skin. Feel that touch and that connection, that even if you haven't been touched by another human being in this time of isolation, you can break that isolation by touching yourself and holding yourself really tightly at this time. Hold your inner child really, really tightly. Get to know her. Get her to be your best friend in this time. Help her to find the ways. Ask her to speak to you of the ways that she wants to play and find joy and bring happiness back into your life. And in the last part of this meditation, take a deep breath in. And make a promise. Make a commitment and a promise to yourself in this moment right now, here. A promise and a commitment to yourself of something that you can do daily to bring yourself back to a state of peace, to a state of calm, to a state of love and compassion, first and foremost for your inner child, and then for all human beings that are going through this collective experience at this time. Make that commitment, whether it's going to be to devote 5 minutes of your time each day to holding silent prayers and meditation for yourself and for everybody, or whether it's going to be to dance wildly and joyfully, and as you're dancing, you're going to send those prayers out to all the people on the planet, or whether it's going to be to journal or to write or to draw or to play music or sing or to plant your garden. Make that commitment to yourself and make a little pinky promise with your inner child to show up for yourself in this way. And then taking deep breath in, feel that commitment. And slowly and gently, I invite you to bring your awareness back to the sensations in your body, back to your womb space. Whisper a thank you to your womb, thanking her for being there. And even if you've had a hysterectomy and you no longer have a physical womb, even if you're a man and you're listening to this, you have an etheric womb space. We all have this inside of us. And thank this space. And remember that out of all the darkness, new life is birthed. Not be afraid of the darkness. Focus on the light. Just like we had to do as a baby, focusing on that exiting of the womb, of our mother's womb, to enter the light of the world. And then place your other hand on your heart and thanking your heart. Feel that beating, pulsing, alive vitality that's in every cell of your body. You are alive. You are strong. You are healthy. Let that be your mantra. I am strong. I am healthy. I am a warrioress. And everything I need, I can source within. Everything I need, I can source from within. Everything I need, I can source from within. And then gently softening your gaze and opening your eyes. Look around and see everything that's in your space. Everything that is in your space was a thought. Someone had a thought of a chair and they had to then create it. They had a thought of a table and they had to create it. They had a thought of an apartment building and they had to create it. Just like the thoughts of the earth and the consciousness of the earth had a thoughts of a tree and she created it. Thoughts of a whale and she created it. Thoughts of all the four-legged creatures and she created it. Thoughts of the human beings and she created it. And so now, write in your journal after we get off this podcast. First of all, write what your pinky promise to your inner child of how you're going to show up for yourself during these times. And then write in your journal the vision that you want to hold for what this new earth is going to look like for you. And be as imaginative and over-exaggerated as possible. And be as abundant in that imagination. No one can take that away from you. And together we are all co-creating this at this time. Peace and love to you. Peace and love to everyone in the world. Remember that love is always stronger and more powerful than fear. So fear stands for two things. False evidence appearing real, and face everything and rise. So it's our choice right now, people. So I hope that you choose love, because we're all in this together.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
You, Sahara.
It was such a pleasure and honor to have you here to receive. I'm always wondering, like, what does Malaika think? So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on all of this and for that beautiful meditation to connect us back to the source in which we all came from. And I've just been seeing so much just in this quarantine, how rapidly people are awakening and how this feminine wisdom and this womb wisdom are, becoming mainstream, and it's so beautiful. So thank you for guiding us deeper into this journey. I really enjoyed that meditation and everything you had to say. And where can listeners who may not know you, how can they connect with you and eventually go on one of your retreats?
Yeah, so I've been in this, my own transitional phase right now, and, facing my biggest fear about doing what I do in live, and how does that translate doing it onto online? You know what I mean? I mean, you've done my teacher training, so it's like everything's very embodied and practical and earth-based, and so I'm kind of like, how do I do this online, And yet at this time, I also realized that what I have to share, and that, this platform, like I've been just doing African dance every Wednesday morning, Bali time at 9:00 in the morning, and streaming that live, because I've been doing that here with the people that I live with, and just to keep us fit and healthy, and joyful. We've been doing African dance every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. for my live stream for my Facebook page. But as far as like my courses and everything, I'm still in the process right now of working out how to, like, what it's going to look like as an online course during this time. And I'm in the process of creating that. And I am still offering one-on-one private sessions. So if people feel called to and they want to work like through Zoom and do a private coaching session, if they need some help at this time, I'm open to receiving clients in that way. And yeah, I'll keep you posted when everything else gets launched.
Well, having done your retreat now, I was like, that was like 7 years ago. So crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
But I feel like some things need to continue to be done in person, and your medicine, like I've been telling you for like the past year, I'm like, start a podcast. It's really easy. And, and definitely you get to do more stuff online and online courses, and just experiencing you and your retreat and your magic in person, I don't think there could ever be a replacement for that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because I've got my Zoom, and I used it for the first time. I did a music production course a few weeks ago, and recorded myself playing some live music, and I created my first tribal dance track, with drums, and yeah, it's pretty epic. I'm getting that mastered at the moment, and we'll put that out on my SoundCloud. But that was the first time I've used my Zoom. So even like I have this, everybody's got their fears and their things they deal with, and me is like technology has always been like, I've got my rattle here, and my feathers, and so suddenly I'm like everybody facing that thing of going, okay, it's how do we find the balance, and how do I find the balance of using this technology to better humanity? And I do see the gift in, like, when I just did that one African dance class, and suddenly, there was like 580 views or something. I mean, more views than I'd ever had on anything that I've ever posted. And so many people, especially during this time of lockdown, they were like, oh my God, that was so good. Please, can you do it again? And, I was dancing with my whole family, and, all these kinds of things. And so I get it. And, my resistance has been that resistance of spending more hours on the computer instead of less hours, because I really do believe that we have to find a balance with the technology and use the technology wisely to restore balance in the earth, not create more imbalance. So if you spend an hour on the computer, you should spend another hour dancing or jumping around or shaking or doing something to move the energy in the body.
I love that. And with that, I think we would be dancing all night because we're on the computer all day.
Yeah, well, I'm not. See, I'm not. I haven't been. And I'm like, can feel that like pull that, oh my God, like this is where I have to go if I want to keep doing things. Because of course, I've had to postpone all my trainings and everything right at the moment. So yeah, I'm just going slowly to see how this all rolls out and what kind of world we're going to have when we come out of this hibernation right now. And see where my energies can best be of service. So,
well, I look forward to experiencing your medicine and magic in person. I have faith that by October I'll be in Bali dancing with you, and this will just be another thing that made us stronger and wiser. So thank you again for sharing all your wisdom and magic with us, and I look forward to having you on the podcast again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sahara. Take really good care. Hey, how did the avocado tree go that I gave you last time?
Well, it died pretty quickly because I think it's because, one, I live near the ocean and the salt breeze, and then also because I don't have a garden to plant it in.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
Yes, but I'm going to start growing. I've been looking up like different berries because they don't require that big of a pot. So I want to see if I could grow different berries. That would be so good, and such a good money saver too.
Yeah, and also like in the car parks in your apartment building, you can put things in there. Remember, I was saying you should have put the avocado tree just planted in the grounds of the building,
Yeah, the gardeners would probably take that down, but
I've been a phantom tree planter for a long time.
They're like, how did this tree get here? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's an avocado tree. I like avocados. They might not pull it out, it's like, yeah, I know a lot of trees that I planted in places that, like in Australia, when I was doing phantom tree planting and in school grounds and around schools and stuff, so children could remember that food grows on trees, and a lot of those trees are, some got cut down, a lot did, but a lot have been protected, and then they're like, oh, this is part of the food project of the school or whatever, and I don't care who gets credit for who planted what. I just want the kids to eat fruit. I'm looking at my big juicy papayas that I grew in 9 months, and I'm going to eat one of those this morning for my breakfast.
Juicy and magical. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you too, beautiful. Have a wonderful day, and please reach out if you need some more support. I'm here for you, and we got this.
Thank you. How powerful was that episode? Malaika always just brings such truth, such embodiment, such Shakti to everything that she does. And know that these times are uncertain and these times are always moving. And some moments we can feel like total bliss and other moments we can feel total meltdown, and know that that is okay. Know that your body is your home. Your body is your safe haven. And no matter what is happening, she is there for you. So hopefully Malaika's retreats will be open again soon. But in the meantime, I will definitely be having her in the Rose Gold Goddesses community. If you're not a member of Rose Gold Goddesses yet, come join us, because being part of a conscious online community is more important now than ever before. So leave behind your anxiety, your stress, whatever it is, and come in circle with other women and receive the content that your soul has been craving. And this is all available for you with weekly workshops, expert guests, goddess circles, opportunities for you to share your medicine with the community, all available for you in Rose Gold Goddesses. You can find that link in our show notes, rosegoldgoddesses.com, and I am so excited to have you there. If you loved this episode, I would love to send you a free gift, which is the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type. This is a different book than Eat Feel Fresh, my first book ever, which is not released anywhere, and I am gifting it exclusively to those who leave a review of my podcast in the iTunes store. So all you got to do is head over to iTunes, where you may be listening to this podcast, and leave a review. Take a screenshot that you've left it and email it over to me at Sahara@eatfeelfresh.com. Again, that's Sahara, Sahara, at eatfeelfresh.com. And I will send you back the first half of my unreleased book, Eat Right for Your Mind Body Type, which goes all into Ayurveda, doshas, plant-based nutrition, body types, all of the things in a really fun and engaging way. So this is my gift to you for free for supporting the podcast. Every single review I personally read. It really helps the podcast be listened to by more people so we can raise the vibration of the planet together. And I am so grateful to have you on this journey. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Namaste.